A very good morning to one and all present in this virtual meeting. First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the participants who have joined today in this virtual meeting. And I'm really very happy to let you all know that today we have with us Professor Khoo from National Technological University, Singapore. And I'm really happy to receive him on this virtual event. And I request all the participants to join me to welcome Professor Khoo for this virtual meeting. Today, sir will be talking about a new direction for library and information science in the age of COVID-19. But before that, before we start the meeting, I would like to introduce sir, and I will request all my participants to please welcome sir. Professor Khoo is an associate professor in the V School of Communication and Information Division of Information Studies at the Nanyang Technology University, Singapore, where he teaches courses in the knowledge organization, information architecture, data mining, and web-based information system. He obtained his PhD Syracuse University in 97, his MSc in Library Information Science at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in 1987, and BA from Harvard University. He has also worked for several years as a science reference librarian, cataloger, and online information searcher at the National University of Singapore Libraries. His main research interests are in knowledge organization, ontologies, automatic sentiment categorization, human categorization, behavior, natural language processing, information extraction, multi-document summarization, and clinical decision support system. I feel really blessed to have him here in this virtual event, and sir will be talking today about new direction for library and information science in the age of COVID-19. It is really, sir, privilege and honor to receive you today. And may I request you to please join us to deliver the talk. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tripati. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm privileged and honored to be invited to talk to all of you on the topic that's very close to our hearts, right? The new directions for LIS. All over the world, librarians are trying to figure out what directions to take for the profession. And we have now COVID-19, which is a big test for all of us. In case the internet connection is not very good, I have actually recorded my presentation in a video file. So I will ask Tripati to just play the audio recording, okay. And then after that we can
chat. That will be really great, sir. I'll be playing that video, sir, with your kind permission. Sir, please.
Okay. Okay, let me start by introducing my school very briefly. It's a Wee Kim Wee School of Communication and Information. Wee Kim Wee was a former president of Singapore and was a journalist. So this school has two parts. There is the communication studies part of the school, and there is the information studies part of the school. I, of course, belong to the information studies part of the school. And we offer three master's programs: an MSc in Information Studies for training librarians, an MSc in Knowledge Management for training knowledge management professionals in the industry, as well as an MSc in Information Systems. We do have a PhD program, yes, but I also teach in the undergraduate communication studies program. So the school is multidisciplinary and becoming interdisciplinary. So if you happen to be in Singapore or passing through, please let me know and come and visit my school, and I'll take you to lunch. All right, let me begin my talk. New directions for LIS. Okay, we all can agree that libraries, librarians, and library schools are all at a crossroads. We are seeking new directions for the profession because we think that maybe what we have been doing in the past may not be relevant anymore in the future. Okay? Uh, in industry, we hear all these buzzwords: big data, ubiquitous computing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, open access, Web 4.0, fourth industrial revolution, blockchain, smart city or smart nation, and then now COVID-19. So my question is, in which of these trends or initiatives are librarians involved in? Okay? Are we leading any of these trends? I think we are participating in two of these trends. One is big data, and the other is open access. I understand that libraries are now using data analytics to analyze library data to understand our customers, our users better. Uh, at the university library, we are running research data management services and also running, data repositories. Mm. And so I think we are involved, at least partly, in big data. Uh, we are also involved in open access. Okay, I think librarians are champions of open access. We manage our institutional repositories and making them open access. We are publishing open access journals. So I think we are doing very well with regard to open access. So I would give ourselves 2 out of 10. Okay, out of these 10 trends or 10 buzzwords, we are active in at least 2 of them. Okay? And now there is COVID-19. Yeah. And COVID-19 is a big test for all of us, not just for librarians, but also for other professionals. It's a test of, whether we are relevant during a time of crisis. Are librarians playing, important at a time of crisis? And suddenly COVID-19 is pushing us to adapt, to change more quickly, okay, to go, digital and online more quickly. Okay, I think that libraries and librarians are the threat. We do many things. We are involved in many initiatives, but users don't seem to appreciate what we do. They don't think that what we do is important anymore. We know many things, but we seem to be playing catch up all the time. We are not like ahead of the curve. We are not leading any of these initiatives. And probably don't care. Okay, what about COVID-19? What is the librarian's role at a time of COVID-19? Um, I think the first role is we must keep safe, because stay home and keep safe. Wear your mask if you are going out. Keep a safe social distance. Okay? So librarians are not playing a front line role, okay, in the fight against COVID-19. So we should keep out of trouble. Right? I know that some libraries are offering free online resources and certainly open access resources to support people who have to stay at home. We try to provide some entertainment and education services to people who have to stay at home. For example, in Singapore, the National Library offers a free access to the national newspaper. Usually, we have to pay a monthly subscription to read the national newspaper, but now it is offered free of charge. I know that the libraries are closed, right? So all the loan due dates are waived, are pushed to until the lockdown is over. They have waived my fines. I pay a lot of fines to the public library, and I never imagined that one day they would actually waive my fines. So COVID-19 has forced libraries to waive fines. I know that librarians are engaged now in professional continuing education, just as you're doing now, right? If it's not for COVID-19, you will have no time to listen to me. And maybe Mr. Tripathi won't invite me, right? If there's no COVID-19. Okay, but now we have time to engage in professional continuing education. I hope that librarians are taking advantage of this downtime to plan new information services to roll out after the lockdown is over. But what else are librarians doing? What role can we play in COVID-19? So I'm going to point out a few areas where we can play a role in COVID-19. Now, in Singapore, the government has designated some professions as essential services. Okay? They are essential services even during COVID-19. For example, the doctors, of course, they are essential services. The police, the military, the social workers, they are essential services. Also essential are the cleaners, people who clean up, the streets, the homes, and so on. The garbage collectors are essential services, right? But not librarians. It's sounding like we are not even as essential as the garbage collectors. Okay, so all right, that's a joke, right? But it shows that we need to do something to make ourselves more relevant in society and in industry. Now, all over the world, librarians are organizing conferences and workshops like this one to talk about the future of libraries. In the US, in the United States, and Canada, some 5 years ago, there were a series of seminars for library managers and library directors and chief librarians to plan the future of libraries. And Ken Haycock summarized the questions and challenges raised in these seminars. It's interesting that in these seminars they could agree on the questions and the problems, right? But there was no consensus on the solutions. What are the directions that libraries should take? They couldn't agree on it, but they could agree on the problems. So these are some of the problems that we are facing. What is the mission of library that is unique, achievable, and contribute to the community? So certainly at this time of COVID-19, we need to ask this question. What are the services we do that other people cannot do? How can we contribute and be essential to the community? What is the library space? By library space, they don't mean the physical library, but library services. What library services can we provide that is not duplicated or being taken over by other agencies, by other people? What is the library brand? What is the library role or main image that we project to users? Because we are doing so many things, we don't seem to have a core image anymore. Which organizations and communities should library collaborate with, and for what purpose? It's not very clear now. And then lastly, how should the culture of librarians be changed? So there is a sense that the library culture, the thinking of librarians and their mindset will not be useful in the future. There is a problem with the way librarians think. Okay? Our way of thinking is maybe holding us back. Is becoming a problem. Okay? I feel this way myself. I think as librarians, we need to change the traditional librarian thinking. The way librarians think. It's a problem. I do feel quite strongly, and librarians themselves sense this, right? So I'm going. Quite a lot of my talk will be on this way of thinking. How should we be thinking moving forward? IFLA carried out a survey of library associations. So they asked all their member library associations to survey the librarians in their countries to find out what are the challenges and opportunities facing librarians. So they came up with top 10 goals and top 10 opportunities. Okay, so let's take a look at them. Okay, take a look at this summary of top 10 goals and opportunities. Okay, so on the left side, you will see 10 highlights or top 10 values and goals. And then on the right, top 10 opportunities. They make sense. I think they are relevant even at this, time of COVID-19. Okay, number one is to provide equal and free access to information and knowledge, and B, champions of intellectual freedom. I think this is certainly important at this time where people have to stay at home, and some people don't have good internet access, so they're stuck. They cannot carry on their education and their learning. They have difficulty accessing information. They cannot go to their neighborhood public library. So there's a problem with equal and free access to information and knowledge. And I think librarians should do something about it. Second is to support literacy, learning, and reading. Yeah, I think this is important. I've also added here to teach students how to think, how to write, and how to present. Okay, but we have to move this online. Okay, so the opportunity here is to update our traditional roles in the digital age. So you can see that even though this survey was done 3 years ago, it is very relevant now at the time, even more relevant during the time of lockdown and COVID-19. We can see that we are pushed to focus more on our digital services. Okay, number three is to focus on user needs, the needs of our user communities. And we need to engage with partners in the community to serve the poor people, the communities that don't have access to the internet. So I think hopefully is to embrace digital innovation. And I think COVID-19 is forcing us, right? It's forcing even me, I must say that before the time of COVID-19, I didn't used to do webinar, I didn't like webinar. I thought it was so uncool, but now we have to get used to do it. The eight addresses the issue of the culture of libraries and librarians. It says here, be less bureaucratic. Okay. Now, remember that this is from a survey of librarians. So librarians are saying that libraries are too bureaucratic. So they admit that the culture is too bureaucratic, too top-down, inflexible and resistant to change. Librarians need to be proactive and open to innovation. We need to overcome our passive mindset and embrace innovation. Okay, so I think COVID-19 is forcing us to embrace innovation. And I don't know whether it's forcing us to become less bureaucratic, but I think being less bureaucratic means we need to empower librarians to come up with their own ideas, for new services. We need to encourage them to develop new services. I think a good example is Mr. Tripathi, right? He has taken on the role of being a facilitator of professional education, being a gatekeeper, yeah. So I think we need to follow in Tripathi's footsteps, right? He is leading the way, right, to be less bureaucratic and to take initiative, rather than to wait for the directions to come from the top. Okay, now IFLA, after they completed this survey, launched a Global Vision Idea Store. This is a website to collect ideas from librarians on the future of libraries, the future services that libraries should engage in. The website is very still available. They have done a collating the ideas, okay, for projects for libraries to engage in. So I took a look at this a few days ago, and I like, the ideas. There are many ideas there, but I think that they are still lacking a vision. The website is called Global Vision Ideas. So there are lots of ideas, but maybe it's hard to figure out what is the overall vision for libraries and librarians. So I thought I'd suggest Science and Technology is planning a special issue on paradigm shift in information research. Okay, and these are the guest editors: Rong Tang from Simmons University and others. And these are the guest editors, and they did a survey on the future of information research. So in terms of LIS research, we are also trying to figure out new directions to take. Okay, now I want to suggest some ideas, okay, for you to consider. But maybe I should take a, I should check with Tripathi. Tripathi, how is the audio and video? Is it coming across smoothly?
It is okay, sir. It is okay, sir.
It's fine. Okay,
In
all right. So
in between, audio is cracking, but it is getting normal after a few seconds.
okay, right. In
Yeah,
any
please,
case,
sir.
if something happens, I have actually put the video file on Google Drive. Okay, so Tripathi can actually give you a link to Google Drive for you to download the
Yes, sir.
video presentation.
Yes,
Okay? All right,
yeah.
so let me suggest a vision and mission for libraries. I think that there is a bright future for libraries and librarians if we can go beyond our traditional library space, our traditional services and roles. We need to expand our conceptions and ideas of what a librarian is, what roles librarians play, what competencies librarians should have. So we should change our vision or our conception of what a librarian is and what services a library should provide. Okay? I think these are very vague, suggestions. These are things that you hear all the time in conferences and workshops about the future of libraries. We need to change, but how do we change, right? In what way do we change? I'm going to suggest a few things. I'm going to suggest 5 paradigm shifts for librarians and libraries. Okay? 5 ways in which we should change our thinking. One is to focus on the information content rather than the information container. Okay? So it's the first one. Second one is to focus on information use rather than the user information needs that we used to focus on. Third, we should focus on librarian as a scholar and researcher rather than a librarian as an intermediary like we used to think. We should focus on information linking, information integration, information synthesis, rather than on providing information. And fifth, we should focus on the librarian rather than the library. So I've identified these 5 ways in which the librarians' culture and thinking need to change, okay, to be relevant and important in the future. Okay, I'm going to combine all this into a mission statement. Oh, okay, right. Before I do that, let me expand on these paradigm shifts. Okay, first, traditionally, libraries focus on books and documents. So these are containers of information. So I used to be a reference librarian in the science library, and when users come to me and ask me for information, I will tell them, okay, go and look up this encyclopedia, go and look up this book. So the focus is on books as containers of information. Librarians do acquisition, organization, and cataloging, providing books and documents, interlibrary loan, and we help users to find relevant books and documents. Okay, that's old, that's traditional. Okay, we should move on. Okay? In the future, we should actually focus on the content of these books and documents. We should focus on the information inside the books, the knowledge inside the books and journal articles, rather than on the books themselves. We should help users to find relevant information and knowledge, not helping users to find books. Okay, the second paradigm shift is we need to move away from a focus on user information needs. Now, it seems like very commonsensical that libraries and librarians should find out our user information needs, right? But how do we find our user information needs? We carry out questionnaire surveys. We survey our users to find out what types of information they want, what kind of information sources they prefer. Okay? But this kind of questionnaire survey will give you only very superficial information. They will give you only like broad categories of information needs, broad categories of information sources. So they are, to me, they are useless. They are not helpful. What I think we should do is to focus on how users use the information. Okay? How are they using it? Helping users to use information. In the past, we also focus on librarian as intermediary. We are the middleman or middle person. We are the go-between, helping you, connecting users with books, okay, connecting users with information. We are the link, right? Okay, that's second class. Okay, to me, that's that's the past. In the future, we need to focus on librarians as a scholar and researcher. Okay, I think this is first class. If we don't do that, then our status will always be low. Okay? To increase our status, we need to portray librarians as users of information, not just an intermediary. We actually use information as scholars and researchers. So I think these two things are connected. A focus on information use and a focus on librarian as scholar. Okay? So we need to learn how users are using information in their work. So when they locate information in the library, how usually they are not using the information properly or well. So we need to guide, we need to help users to use information better. But in order to do that, we have to be expert ourselves in using information properly. So one way to learn how to use information is to focus on librarians as scholars and researchers and teachers, so that now we can teach users how to use information. One good model to follow this idea of embedded library service. A good, I would say, a prime example of embedded service is in the area of evidence-based medicine, and certainly it's very important now at the time of health crisis. Evidence-based medicine. So in this area of evidence-based medicine, librarians, who are now called clinical librarians, support healthcare teams in searching for research results in medical databases. So clinical librarians have to be expert in online searching, and they search a few medical databases to get a comprehensive retrieval of research papers on COVID-19, for example. And then not only that, they also have to evaluate the information. So it's not just searching, it's also evaluating, appraisal, integrating the information, comparing them, okay, and providing them, of course, to the doctors to make the best healthcare decisions. In addition to that, these clinical librarians also help in writing systematic reviews, okay, or doing systematic literature surveys in different areas of medicine. So I think this is a good example for the future of library service to be embedded in various specialized areas. A related concept is the idea of informationist. Informationist means that you are a librarian, but you're specialized in a particular subject area. So you combine two areas of expertise, library science as well as maybe science or medicine. Another idea is the idea of a blended librarian. That means a librarian that has multiple skills and playing multiple roles. And I think that librarians are moving in that direction. So we need to keep developing librarians as being multidisciplinary and having multiple roles. For example, a librarian can be a teacher, a researcher, a librarian, as well as an IT specialist, combining all together. Okay, another traditional focus of librarians is on providing information or providing documents to users. Okay. Yes, I think that libraries should still continue to do that, but we need to do more. We need to focus more on information linking, information synthesis, integration. Here I say knowledge synthesis. Okay, we need to improve our expertise in this. This is also related to information use because when somebody uses information, they need to integrate information with their task. They need to relate information to their problem or to their task that they are trying to accomplish. Okay? Learning, writing, problem solving, all this involves information integration, okay, and knowledge synthesis. Okay? So librarians need to be trained as researchers and scholars so that we can become expert in synthesizing information, synthesizing knowledge, so that we can help users do this. Okay, we can help students to learn better because that is synthesis, right, of information to become knowledge. And lastly, our traditional focus on library, how good our library is, how nice it looks, the architecture, the library collections. Okay, I think that's traditional. Okay, we should place more emphasis on the librarian. Look at Mr. Tripathi. He is so skilled in so many things, right? He is a blended librarian. And he is he's a web host, and so on. The focus should be on librarian skills. So the emphasis on the expertise and specialties of librarians. I think this is a trend that's already taking place. Many libraries now will put up the list of librarians they have and their specialties, their expertise and their education. I think this is a good direction to take. We should also empower our librarians to develop new services, their own services, develop their own ideas, okay, so that we don't continue with the top-down library planning that we used to do before. Okay, now I want to combine all this into a short mission statement. So this is my proposed mission for libraries and librarians. And this is to link or synthesize or integrate data, ideas, people, and apps or tools. Okay, so we need to do that to support this goal or this purpose, and which is to support learning and creation of knowledge. Okay, so there are two things: linking data, ideas, people, and apps and tools to support learning and co-creation. Okay, let's look at the linking part. Okay, linking means integration, synthesis, networking, summarization. Okay? And there are many technologies that we are already using for this purpose. So for linking data, we have linked data technologies, we have big data technologies that librarians are already starting to use. So we need to develop our skills some more. We need to extend and expand our skills in this area. Then there's a semantic web technology and ontologies to link concepts together into taxonomies and knowledge structure. Okay? So we are already doing this, okay? And we can go on to improve on this. Linking of documents is already pervasive on the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web is a network of documents, right? So we don't need to do much in this area, but there are apps that recommend other resources. If you go to Amazon, they'll tell you that people who bought this book also bought these other books, or people who looked at this book also looked at these other books. So these are recommended applications that link documents together. And then we have technology for linking people together. Okay, like this webinar is a means to link us all together, right? Yeah. So we have social media, social networking, social bookmarking. Okay, so we need to link data semantic knowledge, documents, and people, but we need to link them together as well. We need to, for example, we need to link data with the ontology, right? We need to link data with documents. We need to link data with people. So in other words, we need to link everything together so we can go, improve on this idea of linking, synthesis, networking, everything together. Okay, and then we have to do all this for a purpose, right? We have to support learning, both student learning and lifelong learning, and creation of knowledge, especially creation of knowledge in industry, right, to support innovation. And we have tools for that now, and librarians are exploring, for example, visualization tools, text summarization tools. Okay, so we need to continue to do that. We have data mining tools and analytic tools and text mining tools. So librarians are exploring that. Okay, very good. And then we also have knowledge organization tools. Okay, this is where we are experts in, right? We are experts in cataloging, metadata, taxonomy. But we should also move on to the new areas of ontology, knowledge graph, and graph database. Okay, what are the implications for library schools or LIS education? I think that library schools need to lead the way. We need to develop new directions for libraries and librarians. I noticed that currently many library schools are focused on research, right? They're focused on becoming top ranking school, and that's based on citations and all that. So librarians, I find, are feeling left out, because the library schools have to watch their publications and their citations. So library schools are not giving enough support or leadership to the library profession, So I think that's not a good development. I mean, library schools need to try harder to engage with libraries and librarians. So that's why I agreed to participate in this webinar, right? So that I can talk with you, and I also keep in touch with my students and trying to give them advice and to help them. So, questions to the traditional library expertise. Librarians are already exploring all sorts of things, but we need to give them more guidance and more support, more education. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I am doing. Okay, I feel very concerned for the library profession, and I'm trying to develop 3 new services and 3 new competencies for my students. Okay, and I'm doing it now, and I'm planning to do it for the next 2 years, maybe. Okay, previously I used to do research in information retrieval, but I moved on to focus on text mining. So text mining is our area. It's an LIS area. Little things, but don't know what to do when they go to libraries. When they work in a library, they don't know how to apply text mining. When they work in industry, they don't know what to do. So their knowledge and expertise is not deep enough. So I decided to focus on 2 aspects of text mining. One is called information extraction, and the other is sentiment analysis. Okay, sentiment analysis is a buzzword these days. There's a big demand for people who can do sentiment analysis because many companies are now analyzing social media posts, right? And they want to find out whether the posting is good or bad. Is it positive or negative? They want to find out what users are saying about them. So sentiment analysis is one area that we can, that library schools can teach their students so that they can get a job. Okay? Yes, I'm working in this area, but I want to focus on the first one, information extraction. Now, the reason I think information extraction is critical in the future is because many organizations now have institutional repositories. I know that most government agencies in Singapore, and I presume in big multinational companies, they will have enterprise portals, they will have digital libraries, portals, SharePoint portals, with lots of documents, lots of reports, lots of minutes of meetings, papers, but nobody is using them, They just dump all these reports into the repository and then nobody looks for them anymore because it's the repositories hard to browse. Okay, they are hard to search, and it's hard to extract, learning points from all these documents. There's information overload. Okay, so my students are telling me that I used to teach them taxonomy construction, right, metadata, but this is not helping the users in their organizations. So I've decided to develop methods for information extraction to extract facts and information from these documents and synthesize them and link them and visualize them, okay, to help users in the companies to extract a valuable knowledge from the documents in the repository. Okay, the second area that I'm focusing on is on information literacy and scholarly communication. So librarians are doing this. They're doing information literacy and scholarly communication. But I think traditionally, librarians, when they teach this, they're teaching students to what? To do citation, right? To cite sources properly. They're teaching students not to plagiarize. They're teaching students online searching, how to search in databases. Okay, I think this is not good enough moving forward. I think librarians also have to teach academic skills in general. Okay? We have to teach students how to write good literature reviews. So in other words, it's not enough just for them to retrieve information or retrieve documents. We need to teach them how to select information from these documents and how to use them in the literature review and how to write the literature review properly, how to synthesize their ideas in the literature review. Okay? So I'm suggesting that librarians should go into teaching students academic writing. Now, I know that all universities have academic writing departments. There are language departments or communication skills departments that teach students how to write. But their focus is on the language, is on the linguistics. It's not on how to use information. Whereas librarians should be experts on teaching students how to use information in their academic writing. So this is another area that I'm working on to try to show librarians what to do, in teaching literature review writing and academic writing. Okay, a third area that I'm focusing on to try to develop new competencies is in the area of knowledge organization. So I've been teaching a course on knowledge organization, focus on metadata, taxonomy construction to be used in enterprise portals. But now my focus is actually on ontology. Okay? So ontology is the future, I think, of one direction that libraries and information science can take. Focus on ontology, and now there is something called knowledge graphs, and there's graph database technology, there's graph vision. Can learn to get a job in the future. Okay, let me explain this in more detail. Okay, in terms of information extraction from documents, I have a collaboration with the Singapore State Courts. Okay, so Singapore State Courts is maybe in other countries it's called the subordinate courts. They deal with smaller crimes, right? They don't deal with murders and all that. They deal with minor crimes, but they have lots of documents, of course, in the courts. So I'm working with them to develop information extraction methods to extract important facts from these documents. And the first project is a relatively simple one, and is to process charge sheets. So charge sheets are the documents that police write up when they arrest somebody. When they arrest somebody for breaking maybe COVID-19 rules, they need to write out a charge sheet to accuse the person of a particular crime and to specify the details of the crime. So I am working on a method to extract facts from these charge sheets. Okay, here's an example of a charge sheet. Okay, I have to apologize that this is quite blurred, so let me read it out to you. Okay, so these are details of the accused, the person who is charged with a crime. And then here it says, you are charged on 19th November at 12:30 p.m. at this address, 260 Victoria Street, at the cold storage supermarket did commit theft. So this is your crime. You committed theft of the following items. One bag of Lavazza coffee powder valued at $14, and then another bag of Lavazza coffee powder valued at $15, with a total value of $29 in the possession of somebody. So you stole from somebody. So I wrote a computer program in Python to process these documents and extract these facts to fill in this database or to fill in this template. So over here, you have the organization or the venue where the theft occurred. So this theft occurred in the cold storage supermarket. And the victim is this guy. And the date is here. Okay, and the item that was stolen is what? Lavazza coffee powder. And then the second item is also Lavazza coffee powder. And it's valued at $16.55. And the other Lavazza coffee powder is valued at $13. Altogether, it's $29.60. And this is the address, okay, and so on. So this is an example of information extracting facts or pieces of information from a document. Now, this document is very simple, right? It's very short. Actually, it's not easy to extract these facts as well. Okay, but I have to, I'm now working to extend this method to longer documents, to extract important facts from longer documents. Okay, after you have extracted these facts, what can you do with it? One of my students did this. Okay, he came up with this geographic visualization. So these pins represent the places where thefts occur, where people are stealing things. So I think this is a good application that librarians can do. Yeah, we can, identify all the crime cases where it occurred and put them as pins on the map of your state or your city. Now, I think this has a natural extension to COVID-19. Let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, this is a map of Singapore, by the way. This is a map of Singapore. And these are pins representing COVID-19 clusters, where there are groups of people who live there and they got COVID-19, so these are bad areas. So people are concerned, where are all these COVID-19 cases? So they want to avoid them, right? So this guy has put in all these COVID-19 cases and put it on a map of Singapore. Now, if you look at the legend here or the header at the top, you see what? COVID-19 local clusters on June 18. That was like 2 days ago when I prepared my slides. And it says here what? This map was created by a user. Why not a librarian, I would like to see a legend that says this map was created by a librarian, right? By Mr. Tripathi. Librarians can do this, and during COVID-19, why not? Yeah. And if you want details, in the left panel, you see the text here. These are all the clusters. It says here, Cochrane Lodge, there are 300 cases. Wow, that's serious. So if you click on this, it will show you where is Cochrane Lodge with so many cases. You notice that Mustafa Center, if you have been to Singapore, you may know what Mustafa is, right? Mustafa is a famous, huge hypermarket, right? It's famous. There are a number of COVID-19 cases here. So this is something librarians can offer a similar kind of service for various kinds of topics. Okay, let me go back to my state courts, to my chart sheets. So after I extracted the information from the chart sheets, the judge, the judges as state courts want to see whether there's a relationship between those facts and the jail term or the what do you call this? The penalty that they meted out. Okay? So we focus on jail terms. So we look for correlation between the amount stolen and the length of the jail term. That means, the judge says 1 week jail, 2 weeks jail, 1 month jail, 1 year jail. So is there a relationship between what is stolen and the length of the imprisonment? So I found that if we multiply these two things together, we multiply the amount together with the number of items, like 2 Lavazza coffee powder package, then we got a correlation of 0.61, which is pretty good, right? So this is an example of predictive modeling. After extraction, you can do data analytics to predict to predict what's going to happen in the future. Okay, now how do we extend this to COVID-19? So I'm going to tell you about a new project that I'm starting now. In fact, I'm going to start next month, and this is on summarization and visualization of research on COVID-19. The idea here is that there are lots of COVID-19 research papers that are published every day. So it's difficult for the doctors and the government, officers to sieve through this and make sense of all this research, right? It's coming out every day and the papers are hard to read. So I have a research team in the university working on this area to see whether we can use information extraction to extract research results from COVID-19 research. Okay? So we want to develop a method for information extraction and then summarization of the research result. And then we want to develop a visualization method, graphical visualization, to show all these results and to show how they are linked together, how they are related, how they compare, to see whether we can summarize them or generalize them in some way. And then to develop an interface to present all these results to the public. So this is, I think, something that the more technical librarians can learn to do, right? So I'm trying to develop this information extraction method that I can teach my students so that they can go out and offer this service to organizations to mine, okay, to do information extraction from their enterprise portals, to extract uh, important results or important learning points from the documents. Okay, let me move on to ontology. So I told you that this is another competency I'm trying to develop in my students. Okay? Now, I think as librarians, we know or we have some idea what an ontology is, right? An ontology is a network of concepts. There are taxonomies to show subclasses of concepts and other kinds of relationships. But the problem with ontology is that it's difficult to build applications on the ontology. So in the past, ontology is like a research area, right? You do this very difficult ontology research, but in industry, there are no application. So I'm trying to teach students how to build applications on top of their ontology. So that's why I'm using knowledge graphs, a graph database, a visualization interface, to leverage, to build real applications based on the ontology. Okay, this is relevant to AI, to artificial intelligence. At the moment, the hype is on data-driven AI, making use of all the big data that is available to develop intelligent applications. So this is called data-driven AI. This is a hot topic now. But AI researchers know that in the future, we need to include ontologies. So we need to combine data-driven AI with ontologies, what is called semantic AI. Okay? And I know this because these AI researchers have approached me. They have come and talked to me to ask me to collaborate with them to explore how ontologies can improve AI, because they know that in future, they need ontologies so that AI can be more intelligent, can work with words, can work with concepts, rather than just the data. So ontology is needed to support what is called symbolic AI or semantic AI. Semantic means meaning, right? Meaning means control vocabulary, ontologies, classification schemes. These are needed in AI applications in the future. We also need ontology to organize Internet of Things, because in the Internet of Things, there are also the gadgets, and the gadgets are producing all sorts of data, and how to organize and link all this data together. We need ontologies. Ontologies are needed in digital humanities research. And I think many university libraries are supporting this. Librarians are getting involved in supporting faculty in digital human research. So I think this is an such. that my student did. Okay, so this she developed an ontology to support reuse of data sets in the university data repository. So you know that university libraries now develop or manage data repositories. They are collecting research data from the faculty and putting into this digital library. Okay, and they are managing these data sets. But the problem is that nobody is using the data sets. You know, you throw them, librarians put in a lot of effort, a lot of metadata, organize all these data sets, and nobody is using them. Why is that? The reason is because researchers have trouble understanding and evaluating the data sets. The data set. So librarians reuse. Objective of her PhD research was to identify challenges researchers face in reusing social science data sets and to develop an ontology to organize that and a visualization method for users to use. And I'm currently working with her to develop a web application for this, okay, using a graph database called Neo4j. I think graph database is an area, future area that librarians should get into. And we are also, developing graphical visualization tools using something called Cytoscape, which is an open source free JavaScript library. And then this one is a commercial product. Okay? And we are looking into this. So this is an example of a visualization of a data set. So these are variables in the data set. And you can see that there are nodes here that are linked together. And the nodes here actually are linked together in a taxonomy, you know. So if you look at, for example, this one, outcome here, and then you see that there's a subclass that says work-related outcomes. And then another subclass here that says family-related outcomes. Okay, so there is a hierarchical relationship. Okay, take another one, goal in life. Here, goal in life. And then you can see a subclass that says work goal importance. And then here we have family goals, right? So these are subclasses. So you can see that taxonomies are used in this visualization to help users to figure out broader and narrower concepts. And these variables or these concepts are related to this HP1. So this HP1 is a hypothesis, a research hypothesis in the research paper. So in other words, we are helping users to visualize the variables in the data set, the research objectives, research questions, and how they are all linked together or how they are all synthesized. And of course, this visualization is not good enough. You need some text as well. So you need to have a text panel here. Okay, so this text panel gives you more information on these variables. So if you select these variables, then they appear in this text panel. For example, here you see the first time it says ordinal variable or categorical variable. Okay, and then if you read the text here, it says, during the years of your education through high school, did you like going to school a lot, some, not much, or not at all? So clearly, this is a questionnaire question, right? This is a questionnaire survey, and this data is from a questionnaire survey. So we are developing a visualization interface like this to help users to figure out how the variables are linked together. And not only that, we want to link data sets across the whole repository. So this is a visualization of 17 data sets, right? We have lots of data sets and we retrieve them, but we want to see how they're linked together. Do they have the same variables, the same research questions, the same questionnaire items? Okay? So these are from 32 research papers. And okay, this is very difficult to see, right? Okay? But the visualization interface allows you to zoom in. You can zoom in to get more details like this. And then you can see whether the variables are used in multiple data sets. You know, are there links across different research studies? Because sometimes people reuse questionnaires, you know, from another study, or you use questions from another study, and we can see the relationships among them. So this is an example of data linking up data, linking up variables in a data set. Okay, my last example is in information literacy and scholarly communication. So I'm urging my library colleagues, my librarian colleagues, to expand their info literacy to teach literature review writing and academic writing. In other words, to teach users how to analyze information, how to evaluate, how to integrate and use them in their research and academic writing. So I got another PhD student to do a project in this area. Okay, and this is a student that just graduated, right? She's just finished her final oral exam and, just finished and writing a paper now with me on this topic. So she did modeling of argument and information structure in research papers. So we analyze research papers to find out what kind of arguments are used in the research papers and how they're linked together. We also analyze the information, how the information is linked together in the research papers. So an argument can be divided into an argument claim and then the supporting argument. So we analyze it this way. We analyze what is the argument claim and what is the argument support, the supporting argument. So she identified 27 types of argument claims. For example, like research gap. You know that most research papers need to specify or need to argue that there is this research gap. And how do you argue that there's a research gap? You need to use the literature, right? You need to use information in the literature. You need to link them, summarize them, compare them, and then say that there is a research gap, right? So you need to use information to argue that there's a research gap. And then you use the research gap to argue that this is a good research objective, right? This research objective will address this research gap. You also need to argue about the research results and provide information about the research results. Okay? So my students, look for commonly occurring patterns of arguments. Are there arguments that fall into a particular structure or particular sequence, okay? And for different types of research. And then she analyzed the information structure. She analyzed what are the types of information found in these argument claims and supporting arguments. And so how is information structure linked to argument claims? So how is information used in arguments? So the reason we are doing this is because in future, we want to teach students how to use information in their research papers, how to make their research arguments in the papers. So of course, once we find the common information patterns, we model them as an ontology, right? So in other words, we are using LIS concepts and applying them to academic writing. So in other words, we are trying to take over another area, right? Now, we are finding that people in other fields are coming into library science and taking over our jobs, our tasks. The things that we used to do, many of them are now being taken over by other fields or other professions. So it's time for us to apply LIS principles to other fields and go and take over other fields. Of course, we cannot take over other fields, but at least we can show that we are relevant to many other fields. So we are using ontology to model the information structure in the research papers. Okay, so how can this be extended to COVID-19? I think that a lot of people are interested in COVID-19 research papers, and that's why I have a project to extract research results from COVID-19. But I think we can also use this as a teaching, case study to teach students about research. We can use COVID-19 research papers to teach students how to evaluate research results, because there's a lot of fake news out there, right? And there are all sorts of research papers. They are not even peer reviewed. How do you evaluate these research results? And people are, propagating false results, fake news and all that. So we need, as part of information literacy, to teach students how to look at these research papers and evaluate these research results. We can also teach students the principles of evidence-based medicine. so we can get our medical librarians, right, and get them to teach us, what this evidence-based medicine is and how to write systematic reviews. So evidence-based medicine and systematic reviews were developed in healthcare and medicine, right? But you will see that these techniques are being adopted in other scientific areas, and they are also even adopted in social science. I see that some social scientists they are not doing literature surveys anymore. They are doing what? Systematic reviews, right? They are borrowing techniques and concepts from this area to do systematic reviews. So we can do that as well. We can learn this and teach students and even faculty, guide them to do proper systematic reviews. So I think this is my idea of how to extend this to COVID-19. Okay, I think I've given you all my secrets now. And I've told you what research I'm going to do in the next few years. And so uh, uh, I think we should have some time now for you to give me feedback and tell me you don't like my idea, you have better idea. Yes, we need to share our ideas, because I think librarians have lots of ideas. And we need to empower individual librarians to develop their own thinking, right, and their own ideas, and apply these ideas to develop new services. Okay, all right, that's it for my talk.
Sir,
Okay, over to
really
you.
thank you. Sir, sincere thanks for this wonderful session. And really, you have touched upon every point and every aspect related to library and library professional, what they are supposed to do and how to take care of the services in the libraries. So first of all, sir, on behalf of all the participants and my own behalf, I express my sincere thanks for this talk. And there are many questions now, and with your kind permission, if you allow me, so I can just display the questions so we can have a question answer session. Yeah. So one question is from Mr. Satyabrat Sahu, and his question is that use of academic background and specialization of users as relevant parameter in information retrieval of discovery system, can we call that as a text mining?
Okay, let me see. Let me go back to the screen. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the question is whether if you use the user profile, the academic background and the specialization and maybe the education, and then use that to do automatic, right? Automatic information filtering, okay, or what we call SDI, right? Selective dissemination. Is that text mining? Okay, now text mining refers to the method, okay, not really what you do with it. So in this case, you can call this text mining if you pull out the details of the academic background from text. So in other words, don't go to the user and ask the user to fill out a questionnaire. That's not text mining. However, if you download the academic background of the user, the bio description, the research papers, and then you extract information from the research papers and then build a profile. Okay, that would be called text mining. Yeah. So there's a lot of research in this area. Yes.
Okay, sir. Another question is from Dr. Sunil Kumar Satpathy. He is a deputy librarian in NIT Raipur, National Institute of Technology Raipur. So his question is that he also feels the need for embedded librarianship, but in practice, the courses taught by Indian LIS schools are not much relevant for libraries. What is the scenario in Singapore?
I think there are two questions here. One question is on embedded librarianship, and another question is whether the courses that we teach in library schools are relevant to libraries, right? Okay. Okay, about embedded librarianship. Embedded librarianship is very good, but it is very manpower intensive. It's difficult to have a broad library service embedded librarianship for every field. There are not enough librarians. So typically, when you do embedded librarianship, you need to select a small number of like a strategic fields, where maybe you can showcase the librarian skills, or whether it's important in the community, or whether there is a particular special librarian with particular hobbies, or interests, right? So there are all these issues. So embedded librarianship is difficult because it's like very focused, yeah. The second question is whether LIS schools are teaching the competencies that are needed in the libraries. Okay. I would say no, right? And certainly not in Singapore, because our LIS program is just for 1 year. In fact, it's even 9 months. So within 9 months, we cannot teach very much. So we can only teach either basic library skills, which is like not much use. So when they go and work in a library, the library still need to give them on the job training. Yeah, so I would say generally it's difficult. So what I do is I have to focus on certain. I don't like to teach the basic courses, right? The basic courses are so general; it's not very interesting. I try to teach more specialized courses that give them special skills, so that when they go and work in a library, they are immediately, at least they are useful in something. Yeah, but the other librarian skills, they have to acquire it in the library itself. Okay? Yeah. So I would say this is not just a problem with Indian library schools. It's a problem with my school as well, and I think it's a problem with most schools, because the LIS area now is too broad. So I would say that individual schools need to maybe specialize in particular areas, so that when our students go out, they are not just like just have general knowledge and can't do anything. They should at least be able to do a small number of things well, so that immediately they can be useful in the library. It's a common problem. Yeah.
Sir, thank you. Sir, another question. He is very much interested about knowing the PhD in Singapore. He is Mr. Himanshu Agrawal. He is interested to know that how he can do PhD in Singapore, and also he wants to know that what are the scenario of working in Singapore from professionals from India. He has got two
Okay.
questions
The
together.
first. All right. Yeah. Okay. The first question is about doing a PhD in Singapore. Um, we have scholarships for PhD students in Singapore. Usually, the scholarships are awarded for 4 years. Okay? So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that if you're doing a PhD, universities usually assume that you need financial support, right? You cannot be expected to pay for your own PhD. If you have to pay for your own PhD, don't do it, right? And I would also encourage you to do your PhD full time. Even if you do PhD full time, PhD students already are struggling. It's not easy to do a PhD. So that's why in Singapore, most of the universities will give a 4-year scholarship for doing a PhD. Okay? So a follow-up question is, how easy is it to get this scholarship? I would say that the scholarships are becoming more difficult to get. Because there are more applicants. It's becoming more competitive, and also because library science is sometimes not seen as a hot area. Uh, Countries would rather fund research in COVID-19, or healthcare, or Internet of Things, So because libraries are often not engaged in these hot areas, so there's less funding actually for PhD in library science, So we are struggling with that as well. Now, having said that, my advice, if you are applying for a PhD, is to do a small research project on your own. Okay. Many students think that first they need to get enrolled in a PhD program, get a scholarship, then they start on their PhD. But if they don't have prior preparation, it's hard to get a PhD scholarship, because when you apply for a PhD scholarship, the school wants to find out whether you have research talent or not. Right? Do you have a research aptitude? Mm. Are you able to do it? So you need to show them evidence that you have already done some research, and you have the the some of the skills and thinking of a researcher. Mm. Um, yeah, so that would be my advice. If you want to do a PhD, start your PhD now, right? Do research on your own, write a paper, so that when you apply to the PhD program, you can show that here's my research paper. I show that I'm really keen and I am already doing it, and I have the some of the skills and experience in research. Then it'll be easy for you to get a PhD scholarship anywhere in the world, right? Not just in Singapore.
Sir, thank you very much for attending the questions, and really it has been great listening to you on this very relevant topic, that direction for LIS in the age of COVID. The whole world is suffering from this COVID, and they all trying to find the way to overcome this situation. And especially we have to live with this COVID in the present scenario. We are living, in fact, we are living and going ahead. So thank you very much, sir, for showing the path and throwing the lights on the different aspect for library and library professional. It has been really great to listen to you, sir. And the feedback link, sir, I'll be sharing with all the participants, and I'll share the opinion with you soon. So
Okay, yeah.
thank you
So
very
I
much,
have a
sir, for
link to
that.
the PowerPoint slides, and also the video, so you can share it with the participants as well, the PowerPoint
Sure, sir.
slides.
Ji.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll share with all of to them, and I'll let you know their feedback. How do they experience your talk? And once again, sir, thank you very much for joining us, accepting my invitation, and delivering talk today in the morning. So thank you,
Mm.
sir. Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Mm.
Thank you. I sincere thanks to all the participants for joining this event, and I'll be sharing the feedback links with you all soon, and also I'll share the video and PPT shared by sir. So thank you all. Wish you all a very have means a great day ahead. Thank you all.